Hi, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani, and it is the top of the month, so of course we are going to be doing another MMIW episode, and we're just going to jump right into it. Charisse Diane Marie Hooley was born on July 7th, 1991 to Mother Barbara, and was part of the Manitoba Ebb and Flow First Nation. She grew up with 3 siblings, one of which was Sister Jessica, who was a year and a half older than Charisse and stated they were pretty much inseparable as children. Her nickname from the family was Little Blue Turtle. She loved the water and was an easygoing child. When Charisse was 8 and Jessica was 10, however, the girls were put in child and family services care, and the 2 sisters were split up as a result. It's hard to find out why. Family says that it's not due to anything that they were doing, but the result was a significant. And by the time they were teens, several sources report that they both began to experiment with drugs. Charisse fell behind in school and began running away from the homes that the sisters were placed in. While in child and family services care, they both went to cultural programming, learning of their Ojibwe heritage, something that Jessica said gave them pride and purpose. Jessica reported that they stopped experimenting with drugs, and when she turned 18, she managed to get her own place. And the belief was that Charisse would do the same in just a short time. You see, Charisse ended up pregnant at 16 and had a son. And according to Winnipeg Police Service, Charisse was last seen, however, on May 21st, 2009. Then, on May 25th, the 17-year-old was reported missing. On July 1st, 6 days before she would have been 18, a construction crew near Sturgeon Creek in Rotter, Manitoba, found Charisse face down in the water. Winnipeg Police Service did not label the death as a homicide, reporting that they had received information Charisse was using again. Jessica had reported that Charisse requested a drug warrant from her social worker, which would have put her into treatment at Manitoba Youth Center. But that didn't happen. According to one source I could find, the space was too full and she simply couldn't get in. Project Devote. Again, I've spoken about this task force before, but it's dedicated to investigated missing and murdered persons. And they ended up taking over Charisse's case. Barbara said both authorities have not provided her with much information about what they found, and she did meet with Project Devote investigators for the first time, but it wasn't until November of 2014, 5 years after her daughter was found dead. Barbara and Jessica support the possibility of a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous girls and women in Canada. And Barbara continues sharing her daughter's story, stating, quote, "I don't want people to remember her as somebody who was just drug addicted and lost on the streets. I want people to know she was a very good person." End quote. Cheryl Duck. Cheryl Duck was born in 1972. She was one of 14 children living with her parents in Winnipeg and was from the Bloodvein First Nation. Like so many others, there is little about her case or her. What we do know is that on December 5th, 1987, the 15-year-old was killed and left face down in a field behind a residential area in Winnipeg's Maple subdivision. Media reported that she was assaulted with her front teeth broken, and she was basically left to freeze to death, lying face down. An autopsy later revealed she had several blunt force injuries that contributed to her death, although she was confirmed dead by hypothermia. She was found by a 13-year-old boy. The night prior, she had been seen at several Main Street hotels. These included the Leland Hotel, McLaren Hotel, Occidental Hotel, and potentially the Savoy Hotel. The Winnipeg Police Service, Project Devote, is investigating her death as well, which is considered a homicide and remains open and unsolved. Days after her death, Staff Sergeant Don Peters told the Winnipeg Free Press that police had, quote, "good information that might lead us to someone, but I can't say there's a definite suspect," end quote. Cheryl's case was eventually picked up, again, like I just said, by Project Devote, and a joint task force of the RCMP and Winnipeg's police service created to investigate unsolved homicides and missing person cases that involve exploited and at-risk people. A spokesman for the project said that the task force is investigating her death as a homicide and the investigation will remain open until the case is solved. And that's pretty much all straight from the CBC website. Cheryl Johnson. Cheryl was from the Eskasoni First Nation in Nova Scotia. There's little information online about her early life either. All we really know is about her case. In May 2001, the then 23-year-old was found drowned in the Sydney Harbor. After a 2-day investigation, local police closed the case, and they said that they determined that there was no foul play involved. However, Cheryl's mother, Patricia, said, quote, "She was a very good swimmer. I know that because she used to swim across the island," end quote. Patricia continued saying, she also found it suspicious that her daughter was found with her shirt half off, with only a toonie in her pocket, even though she had $200 in cash when she left the house that night. Her jacket was left at the bar, but it had nothing in it but a lighter and some lipstick. The Cape Breton Regional Police Service told CBC News that Cheryl Johnson's case was closed and no foul play was suspected in her death. Quote, "I just wanted to know why they came to the conclusion that it was an accident," end quote, Patricia said. Quote, "It was not even a week and poof, it was closed. Maybe it really was an accident, or maybe something really did happen to her, but in the end, regardless, it'll be closure," end quote. Cheryl Lynn Black. Cheryl was also known as Cheryl Ford from Siksika First Nation. When Cheryl was 31, she stabbed her common-law husband to death. She ended up pleading guilty to manslaughter and served 7 years. When she was released, Cheryl lived a transient lifestyle. She became homeless, and according to her family, they feared retribution from the husband's family. Then, in 2004, the 46-year-old was killed. She was found in a burning dumpster in Old Strathcona, Alberta. Police believe that the fire was set deliberately and that Cheryl was alive at the time the fire was ignited. They do not, however, believe that it is related to the husband's family. According to sources, they have done investigation and have been ruled out. But that is all the information we know, and the Edmonton police issued a $4,000 reward for any information on her case. Cheyenne Marie Fox. Cheyenne was a member of the Wikwemikong First Nation in Manitoulin Island, Ontario. Her father described her as someone who was kind and approachable. Cheyenne was a no-nonsense type of girl, according to John Fox Sr., adding that his daughter was also very accepting of others. She ended up as the mother of a 5-year-old son in 2013. And then, on April 25th, the 20-year-old was found below a Toronto high-rise, where she had landed after falling from the 24th floor. Police determined there was no evidence of criminal activity, but her father strongly believes that she was murdered. Quote, "They didn't really do any more other than what they had in front of them. They didn't want to research," end quote, John said. In September of 2014, John filed a statement of claim on behalf of Cheyenne's estate against the Toronto Police Service, the Attorney General of Canada, and 2 individuals for $14 million, alleging negligence in the response to several 911 calls made on behalf of and by Cheyenne that eventually led to her death. See, this claim alleges that Cheyenne was, quote, "a victim of human traffickers who befriended her and exploited the fact that she was a vulnerable young Indian woman," end quote. Their intent was to convert her into an involuntary sex worker, the claim states. On the day she died, Cheyenne was also the victim of an alleged sexual assault by a Toronto taxicab driver, which led her to jump from the taxi along Highway 410 around 6 p.m. Again, this is according to the claim. Two individuals made the first call to the police, reporting they had witnessed her jump out of the taxi. Shortly after that, Cheyenne called herself once she was in apartment 80 at Harrison Boulevard. The second call came in from the apartment around 11 p.m., reporting a fight between Cheyenne and a male customer she had, though it wasn't clear who made the call. According to the claim, although Cheyenne was in serious danger because she was a victim of sexual exploitation, Toronto police still did not respond. The court documents state that Cheyenne made several attempts to leave the suite before engaging in further, quote, excessive drinking, end quote. Toronto police only responded to the last call when the customer reported Cheyenne had jumped over his balcony. The statement of the claim says at 11:10 p.m. Cheyenne's body was found by Toronto police. The statement of the claim says in failing to respond to the calls, police breached the applicable standard of care owed to Cheyenne. It alleges police might have known that Cheyenne was a young woman vulnerable to violence and a victim of human traffickers. John believes police did not thoroughly investigate the death of his daughter or effectively communicate with the family. Quote, "They really didn't tell me the full scope of really what they did. They gave me, like, bits and pieces," end quote, John said. John also said police told him that the male who was with Cheyenne last was supposed to take a lie detector test, but according to him, it was never done. Eventually, police closed the case and told John the male was too traumatized to do the test. Toronto police told CBC News the cause of death was determined to be impact trauma, and after an investigation, interviews, and a determination by the coroner's office, there was no evidence of criminal activity. The case remains open, and if new information arises, it will be investigated, police said. Quote, "I asked for a location as to where Cheyenne fell. I wanted to do a proper ceremony there," end quote, said John, referring to a traditional Indigenous ceremony. Quote, "They said, if you go there, you're going to be charged with trespassing, and we're not going to tell you where it is," end quote. The statement of the claim alleges that Toronto police and the Attorney General, quote, "failed to consider or properly pursue all investigative strategies in relation to missing and murdered Indian women, specifically Cheyenne," end quote. Christina Littlejohn. Christina Littlejohn was reported missing in 1976 by members of the Rousseau River Reserve in Manitoba, 8 years after she was last seen. The investigation was ongoing for several years without success, and eventually officers found Littlejohn and her common-law husband had visited several homes in the reserve on the day of her disappearance. After they left the house, they were seen walking into the woods together, and Christina, who was 27 at the time, has not been seen since. And that is all the cases that we have for this week. Remember, to all those out there listening, be careful. It's a dangerous world we live in.